I am singing but unmuted now.
Dan the White, what's going on?
You know it, buddy. It's going pretty good. I can't believe we've finished another season of another show.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it was time for this show to end for the season. I think it ended on a high note, but while unbelievable, we finished another one. Glad to maybe put this season behind us for sure.
We keep racking them up.
So, you ready to do this thing?
Let's close it out. Let's close the book.
Welcome to this episode of the Prestige-ish Media Podcast. I forget exactly what the quote was, but I think it's the child toucher himself, Dan McNair. Dan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good because I'm not touching children.
I thought that's what the Sir Roderick of the North was calling Ormond because they were using all of the children as the shields or whatever. I think that's what he said, but if not, funny either way, I say. We're talking about the season finale of this season 3 of House of the Dragon, The Treasons, multiple at Tumbleton. Dan, initial thoughts and a rating on this episode.
I enjoyed this episode, and this being an instant reaction, I might be a little bit in the moment. I thought the season started out good, hit some snags, but one of the things that it seems like this franchise does well is battle scenes. And you mix in a couple dragons and some special effects, and it's the popcorn kind of watch that I do enjoy. Maybe not the fatality count that I wanted, but instant reaction, I'm going to give it a 9.
Dan's like, the whole town burned, not enough deaths for me. But I get what you mean. I assume you mean consequential deaths, but lots of other deaths for sure. But I still think some consequential deaths. Yeah,
Nobody on the Deadpool. Let's just say that.
that's interesting. That may be a reflection more on your Deadpool than this show, but yeah, I will. All I vacillated as I was watching it. I was like, do I give this a 9? I feel like maybe I'm over ranking. I think in a vacuum, this is very worthy of a 9. I think over the course of the season, just because the season to me has been it's so inconsistent, I lean closer to an 8. So I'm going to say 8, but anywhere between 8 and 9 for this episode, I think is very reasonable. I think episodes 1 and 2 in this episode are the best episodes of the season. Those also coincidentally or not coincidentally had the most action. I am not the action lord.
I'm winning you over to my side.
I like nuance, but this show's nuance has definitely fallen short of spectacular. And so I think I do not mean Game of Thrones. I do not mean A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, but this House of the Dragon specifically seems to do the small stuff mediocre. I will say that differed a little in season 1, and I am not the biggest George R.R. fan as far as his involvement in TV shows, but he was the least involved in this season. I think it was better than last season, but he was probably the most involved in the first season. And the first season did the nuance better, I think, than any other season. And then the big stuff, certainly this season, has probably done as well or better than anything else, if that's fair to say.
Yeah, in retrospect, the thing that seems wild to me is the first season had a couple big time jumps.
Yeah.
And the last two seasons, they've been minimal. It's all the same actors.
I think that was intentional. They had to set the scene and give you the backgrounds. You have that connection between
But
Alicent and
that was the
Rhaenyra.
entire first season for the
Yeah,
most part.
like I said, I think maybe because of the time jumps and some of what was going on, it just the little stuff meant more the first season. The second season kind of fell flat. And then this season, once again, book ended really well, but I think a lot of the worst part of season two's a little bit in the middle, but definitely book ended better. One thought I did have, I don't know that I wouldn't have stretched this episode into 7 and 8 just to make things pace a little bit better. I don't know how you'd have done it or what the mix would have been, but I think just that lull in the middle was just way too long. There was just too much setting up to get to this episode, I felt. And once again, I think there's a better show in this show. And is it Is it 6 episodes this season? It might have been. And it's not always the amount of episodes, but it's how they're using them. And I just think definitely episodes 3 through 7, I don't know that they had more than 3 episodes of material in it.
Yeah, I go back to there was wandering around in the Riverland a bulk of this season. And I think they maybe lost the plot there a little bit.
And we build the Tumbleton certainly by the end of episode 2, beginning of episode 3, and then we're just waiting for Tumbleton to happen. The first thing that we set the episode up with is Aegon has now been placed as this resurrected figure. So it's not only somebody who didn't die, it's somebody who died and was resurrected with Sunfire, who was dead. So from Rhaenyra's position, it's even worse because it's not just he's alive, he's resurrected now. Thoughts there on your end?
Yeah, the whole he has risen thing might be a little bit hard, but in a lot of religions, and Westeros might not be any different, the resurrection theme is something that they go by. And the way that kind of seemed to hit at Rhaenyra has repeatedly this season presented herself as the chosen one. And so this is a real smack in reality to her. So I could see where how it landed. And like the whole thing with her building her way towards the sept, I wasn't really that interested in that. That was the part of this episode that I'm glad they didn't do more with, but I think I got more than I needed.
And could some of that have happened in episode 7? Could some of the Helaena stuff happen in episode 7 to maybe spice that episode up a little bit more? Because certainly the battle could have held its own for an episode for sure. And while in this episode, Rhaenyra going for the Sept was maybe one of the least interesting things of this specific episode. In the last few episodes, it might have been more interesting,
Yeah.
for what those episodes were. I just found it interesting, and I assume a lot of this is source material, although the show hasn't, from my understanding, once again, neither of us read the book or the stories, but Dan, the base Game of Thrones books, but not the House of Fire and Blood or whatever this dog and pony show
Yeah.
is. And but it's just not enjoyable seeing Rhaenyra commit so many own goals on herself and just be so bad. This is a character that I feel like in the first season they made you want to root for, and all you've seen her do since then is boner the playing field. So more of that here. And to me, that was the most interesting part about Aegon being resurrected, not the fake resurrection imagery, but Rhaenyra created it with her own tomfoolery.
I agree with you on the Rhaenyra front, but I don't mind seeing Damon screw up. For some reason, it works for him better.
Yes, and at that point, he goes with his whole all you have to do is wield the power. This has been yours the whole time. Old Valeria, dog and pony show, that kind of thing.
People will respect power. You have power.
Yeah, now there was a theme that they mentioned in the end of the episode, very relative to this, as painting Rhaenyra as a fascist, and how that was like Myseria's worst nightmare, supporting a fascist and almost making Myseria the good person, which we both agreed last episode it looked like she was turning bad.
Yeah.
And I just think the Hollywood obsession with fascist imagery is over the top. Luckily, it wasn't so over the top that I really took the feel of it within the episode, other than them just continually painting Rhaenyra in a bad light. In the after episode, they call it her kind of fake crowning, like her Darth Vader moment. I don't know that any of it was that heavy. And I think, if anything, the most disappointing things of Rhaenyra are not her fascism, but just her lack of effectiveness as a leader. She's just not effective and not making good decisions overall. But I don't know that I pick up what the show was putting down in
Yeah,
that
I
regard.
didn't read it like with that kind of, even in Star Wars, they'll do a fascism reboot a little bit more along the imagery of what you would expect. And I didn't take away with her speech was necessarily going quite that far.
Yeah, fascism aside, I would assume just calling it her Darth Vader moment is insulting to you as the Star Wars nerd that you are. Um,
Yeah, you're gonna have to do more than bad eyeliner to make her into Darth Vader.
It looked like she just had two black eyes almost. It did not look like an highlighter issue. It looked like she took a couple right and left hooks. And then the other thing that's, I get the dichotomy of it, but just everyone is bad mouthing her to her face. And we've seen in previous seasons, people get beheaded for the simplest of slights. And Bela's sitting there reading her the riot act about not saving her dad.
There was Corliss going off on her a couple episodes back.
Yeah, and I think certainly between her sister killing her son and then also her kind of keeping that a secret, whether that's known or not, I don't know. And then on top of that, I think she's right. They were looking for Vagar all season, didn't find Dick all season. Like,
And you know what I did read is there was a contract dispute with Vagar,
okay,
and so that's why you didn't see him this season. He was a holdout. So they
Vag
had to write him out of the story.
Vagar and the fat girl from Euphoria both holding out this season did not like how their character was being portrayed as just the big dragon of the season.
Yeah, like
Wanted
and
more to
stop
his
stop
character.
dragon hate
Yeah.
hashtag. One thing I
But
wanted to ask while we were talking about the big Rhaenyra scene, Joffrey woke up finally. This Rip Van Winkle kid finally makes an appearance.
what was funny is I saw him, I was just like, who is this little weird kid following her around? And then when she finally started like telling him the alleged prophecy, it's like, oh, it's Joffrey. He's finally made contact. But yeah, that was interesting. Mysaria sent off. What did you make of that? I was good riddance, but then she doesn't really go away. I feel like I'm white wormed out for maybe the first time in my life. What do you make of Mysaria at this point?
I was hoping she would just get on a boat and leave the show. She got the boot and she got a boat. I thought it was interesting. That's where the gray mare came into play.
Yeah, I whatever. Was it gray for sure?
Well,
I
I
think
think
we're
we were
both
saying
thinking
gray
of
mare in our jokes
I
on.
think we're thinking. I think the reason I was getting there, and I think the thought of the imagery in my mind is the pale horse is the thought. But yeah, we see it there, but I don't necessarily get the relevance other than
I
it
have a
happening.
thought on that.
Okay, go for it.
I think Mysaria not leaving is going to do more to destabilize King's Landing against Rhaenyra. And so the sending her away makes an enemy out of Mysaria and is going to force Rhaenyra out of King's Landing.
Yeah, and I know I've compared her to Shay the whore before, but didn't something similar like this happen? Did Tyrion try to send her away with gold before she banged his dad or
Oh,
something?
that's a true comparison. There's definitely some other Game of Thrones nods later in the episode.
Yeah, and it does seem like to some degree in some of these stories, and I'm sure in George's big highfalutin mind that it's symmetry, but I see it sometimes he does ride the same pony to town a few times, and certainly some of that's happening here. We get the Adam dynamic where he seems to be one of her Rhaenyra's most trusted as her current serving hand. We get the
Alan.
Alan, yeah, I'm sorry. Adam is
Yeah.
the one with Dragon, but Alan, who is also supposed to be the one most tied to Bela, and certainly they don't seem to be on the same page here. And then Adam and Alan don't seem to be on the same page here.
It's going to be moonlighting all over again. It's like, will Bruce Willis get with Sybil Shepherd and then Mark Harmon shows up and you get 5 frickin' seasons of it. No more
Uh,
moonlighting.
Definitely moonlighting in our demographic for sure. Ormond makes Darren a knight, but I think
I didn't know that rule.
so any knight can make a knight, but I feel like we've always heard the different knight anointings, and even the half-assed anointings in A Knight of the Seven Kingdom seem more formal to this. This seemed to
They
be,
go through the seven gods and like with the
yeah,
mother, you'll do
in
this.
the stranger and the Motrin PM or whatever it is, but
They worship Motrin PM.
so the
But the rule that I didn't get was you have to be a knight to be a king. was what Ormond tells him.
Who knows? I just looked at it as
Like,
the knight allegiance seemed to be more pledging allegiance to Ormond than to the kingdom or the realms. It seemed to be Ormond's way of manipulating him via his vows of knighthood. I don't know if that makes sense, but we didn't get the common thing. It's, do you as a knight promise to do whatever I tell you to do, no matter how much danger I send you into? And it's, this doesn't seem to be what I remember a knight vow
so
being.
the knighting service seems to be like a wedding ceremony in a lot of ways. You got
Yeah.
some common things, and then some people just riff their own version of it.
Yeah,
Um,
Ormond
but
definitely writing his own vows here. Go ahead.
Rhaenyra wasn't a knight, but maybe that's how they're going to claim that he has a stronger hold because he was. But neither was Dany. Neither was Jon. I guess Jon was never a king, but I'm just Joffrey
King
wasn't a
of the
knight before he
North!
was a king.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The whole thing seemed a little off to me there. Ulf just crushing ales with the boys and the gals. Ulf the White is, we think, ready to ride, but apparently not.
And I will, in my Colin Farrell of it all, there's imaginary gum chewing going on as he
Okay.
does that grand speech. I know you won't go back and look it up, but this is one of the phantoms, the boogeymen of me watching TV. I pick up on this when nobody else does. I'm pretty sure they don't have Hubbub or Bubblicious, but he's chomping away on some gum while he's entertaining all the maids and the milkmen in the kitchen.
Maybe some old tree sap for our boy Ulf. He's got to get those whitening gum strips in to be called Ulf the White. Alice and Aemond, we get Alice finally admitting to her background, which she was, I guess we're to believe, the daughter of Lord Heron. Her son was burned alive as one of the last male heirs. She and her search to keep him alive pledged everything to everyone, whatever this is that she's become, trying to keep her son alive. It seemed like she was unable to keep her son alive, question mark, or
Yeah.
but she's now certainly over 100 years old, 100 years plus,
And
etc.
so she's basically Lady Heron,
Yeah.
which I that was an interesting bit of backstory, but Aemond, rather than being creeped out for it, later in the episode is like, she's my betrothed. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm hearing that you're 100 years old and like all witchy and stuff, that's probably moving me away from the Isle, not closer to it. But this does explain maybe some of the weird wood people that popped up earlier in the season, that she had a relationship with them from the way back.
We do know that Eamon likes him a little older, certainly older than I do, likes to feedle and suck at the teat. And so for him, maybe that was a win. But yes, I agree, would not be a win for me. Helaena won't eat. So once again, Rhaenyra isn't super likable, but I don't find insolent Helaena to be super likable either. I think this has been a good Helaena season overall, but I also think some of the expectations of her and Allison, it's not like they've been in the tower for years and years. Just go with the flow sometimes. And just, you've got servants, you're getting whatever you wanted. This sounds like a nice vacation for me. I actually enjoyed her being forced to eat, as finally she's not, her petulance is rewarded.
Yeah, don't call the queen ugly. And then you get Helena goes to fat camp.
Yeah, reverse fat camp. uh, Leads the queen to the sept. We do get the, what you previously mentioned and I commented on, which was Rhaenyra telling Joffrey the prophecy. We don't get the whole thing, but we get enough of it. Gwaine and Darren are
Well,
watching. Go
and
ahead.
just to tie a note on that, what she says in Targaryen at the end is, I am the prince that was promised.
Yeah.
And people that are fans of the parent work will recognize that she's not. That actually doesn't happen for a long time, and that's revealed seasons later in the other show.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Once again, I've mentioned I try to only listen after we've recorded, but I do listen to House of R once in a while. And one thing that they've mentioned, one of the hosts was befuddled at, and I actually noticed this, not even being like a book reader or a major Thrones head, but we've been set up in this own show that the prophecy is only for the royalty. And in one of the King's Council meetings, her and Damon talk about the prophecy in the open in front of Orwell and, old lady
Manderly.
Frey, and man, they mention it and they thought that was wild. And I agree, but also wild. I get that only so many people speak Old Valyrian, but some of them have to. And so to openly mention the prophecy here, this prophecy is supposed to be something that's secret and sacred, and she's pronouncing it. So I would assume Game of Thrones people wouldn't be thrilled with that. I wasn't thrilled with that. But I guess you get the say the line Bart moment out of it. But
That and it might be her becoming more unhinged. She's trying to prove that she's destined to be here.
this is
But she
supposed to
is
be
telling
this
the whole town at the
this
same
is supposed
time.
to be this top secret prophecy, and hard to believe it wouldn't spread or survive somehow from a public declaration like this, even if it's in a somewhat lost tongue. You would think somebody like even just a Massaria, for example, who was also, I think, in the King's Council meeting when all of this was talked about openly. So that is definitely something, maybe a misstep for the show this season for sure. Gwaine, and as they're watching the boys be set up as shields, an interesting process there for Ormond to set these boys up as human shields. They decide they're trying to figure out ways out of this thing. Ultimately, they go to Corlys to propose various options to him. He ultimately won't turn on his values, but they go to Daemon with this offer of peace, which would basically allow, I think of it as kind of how Lord Stark was the Warden of the North, that they would allow Darren to be like the Warden of the South and then let Rhaenyra have everything else. Rhaenyra would still be queen, but Old Town would be left alone. What did you think of this proposal and where it went, Dan?
I I think if they would have made it to anybody but Damon, it might have had a better chance. This felt to me like a Cersei moment. She said at one point, I choose violence. And it was like they were going to Damon with, hey, you could have war or peace. It's going to be the same result. And Damon's going to choose war.
And he's finally just getting what he wants, which is ultimately this. And
Yeah.
so at this point, probably too late to stop him a week ago. If this proposal is made to Rhaenyra directly, maybe they get somewhere with it. But where they are now, a little bit too late.
I know you're not a fan of Gawain. He was extra simpish this episode.
Yeah, I did think it was funny. The Roderick guy of the North just teasing and talking and just being like, let me gut this cunt right now.
This was a good episode for Roderick.
It was a good cunt episode too.
Yes, I know that's your favorite.
Many good cunt drops, and possibly a line read of the season of the episode coming up. And I hesitate to say he's slightly turned me at this point, but Aegon confronts Aemond and he goes, I'm alive, imbecile. It was almost Skeletorian of Aegon here.
Aegon could be a great villain if he keeps this version of himself going forward.
Yeah, it's part Mad King, part Skeletor to me, and it's definitely the best version of him. As the handsome, impatient, impetuous king, he was very annoying. But as the deformed, maniacally laughing maniac, it's at least funny.
Yeah.
So curious to see where that goes. I think the other point of the betrothed line for you is last episode when Alicent asked who Alice was, he didn't really have an answer. And now his answer is his betrothed. And so I think it's also that next step forward for him.
It's solidifying it. I love that every time she comes into a scene, everybody's like, who the hell is this?
But also, every time she comes into the room, Aemond is compromised again. Somebody's trying to kill him, or vice versa.
Was really hoping that when Aegon gives them this plan, that they're going to crash the Battle of Tumbleton in the middle of it all, just making it that much more chaotic, more a three-way war with the dragons than the Greens versus the Reds. That didn't happen, but I thought the potential for that was very enticing to me.
Dan was definitely looking for the three-way at the green door, but yeah, no, that was interesting. I couldn't see how quick they could make it happen in one episode. I think equally interesting is they will come upon a Tumbleton in ruins. And so what do they have? They have Harrenhal, they have Tumbleton, but they're both Harrenhal is probably the best place to fortify going forward. Maybe question mark.
Yeah, you might think. And we didn't really see Darren get away. So I'm wondering where he's hiding his dragon. We're gonna have to wait 2 years to figure that out.
Yeah, and hopefully only exactly or 18 months. I do think they're ready for season 4, and that will be the last season. So hopefully it's not quite as long wait, not as many writer strikes, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think we're at least 18 months away. But I'd like to wrap this thing up in my brain sooner rather than later. Yeah, good episode for Lord Rick. He was supposed to storm the gate and then he could die. Ultimately, he ends up looking for Ormond, more like Ulf the Brown. Am I right?
He was
Um,
definitely caught with his pants down.
they definitely got their money's worth of Ormond not liking smells and various things. I did think it was
Oh, the
funny.
throwing up. Yeah.
I did think it was funny all the little kids like pissing themselves and freaking out over being used as human shields.
What about the children?
But as we get a lot of different things here, they're using children as shields. We've got arrows, we've got a fire trench. Ultimately, they get into town. Go ahead.
I think one of my biggest fumbles in the season, I want more Black Alice. I
Explain.
So she's the one that shot Kristen Cole in the head.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they, I thought you meant a black version of Alice Rivers.
I want Alice from the Brady Bunch
Yeah,
retcon.
to be black. No, you're talking about the chick with the eyeshadow, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess she's a bigger
She's a
character.
badass.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think she's a bigger character in the books, and they show her here, but they don't ever explain her. This was the episode that I finally really got the most notice of her.
okay.
So, but I know she was in the other episode. She had various like moments, but they haven't really spent a lot of time with her. I thought in this episode I'd been a little hard on the Tullys. They at least showed the Tully boy leader strategizing, which I thought that added depth to him. I just don't think they've done enough to add depth to these characters. Even Lord Roderick, we just now get to see some real character from him coming out, unfortunately.
I thought it was interesting that they showed their chants and kind of their war dance as they were going in. And it seemed similar to native New Zealand warriors. I think they're the Maori.
Yeah, they're the ones that like to do the hua hua dances, pat the arms, that dog and pony
Yeah,
show.
I thought that was an interesting take there.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have the people from the north doing it. Like, not really, wouldn't be my interpretation, but
Get the
whatever.
Dornish people doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I will say the boiling hot water poured on the one guy was a pretty good tactic, although dirty. I think it's funny as Damon's realizing as all this is going on that he doesn't realize that Ulf has turned yet, but Ulf isn't anywhere to be found. And then Sir Hugh is just dicking around in the middle of town like an idiot. Like,
Yeah, this was terrible for Sir Hugh. Him and his wife stuff is really annoying me.
I don't think there's any winning for Sir Hugh from here because if he's mad at Damon, it's kind of his own fault. And if he's mad, he didn't do anything to help anyone here for
Yeah.
sure.
So what did you make of then Ormond beats the crap out of Ulf, which I definitely noticed the similarity between that and how Damon treated him. But I
Yeah,
think Ulf is a big part of this episode from here on.
yeah, it was the battle was going to turn on Ulf. I was wondering if Ulf was going to do the right thing at some point or split the middle. I guess he split the middle. First, Ulf goes after, I guess they're the Northerners or the River Runners,
Yeah,
but then
decimates the field.
turns on the town and just starts kind of burning everyone. So you would think this would put Hugh and Ulf at odds versus together. I thought going into this that maybe they would form an alliance for more respect. But if Hugh's mad at anyone, and I think this gives, whether it's used or not, like this would give Rhaenyra some cover to burning all the townspeople. The fact that Ulf
He
turned on
went rogue.
everyone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it gives her some coverage because even some of the damage that her own people did, we did see a lot of Daemon trying to get kids out of the way. Two kids stayed. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this is interpreted coming out of this. But I assume Senior kind of has always had a thing about people that talk about you, the people that are going to assume the worst and the people that are going to assume the best. And so probably whatever side everybody's on, you could probably view it through that lens. But from my circumstance in today's media world, if this was live on TV, certainly what Ulf did could lead to a lot of obfuscation for Rhaenyra's responsibility and all of the townspeople being burned. Anything else for me there?
Just that it seems like Ulf, the first part of it is that I didn't like the whole idea of him turning that betrayal that seemed like just for booze. I understood it, but I didn't like it. And so the fact that he kind of torched both sides made me feel a little better about the whole betrayal. But now I see it as he's got a bounty on his head. He has no friends. Like both
Yeah,
sides could come for him.
and I wonder what he does. Do you go to Driftmark and try to post up there with a dragon, or I think Honey House or whatever Beesbury's old dwelling was the other one he was promised? But it's like, where can you hole up with a dragon? Is his
He's got to take
options?
Reyna's cave.
Yeah. And I did think that was interesting when they promised Darren to Reyna, or they tried to propose that, or Corliss did. That would have been the ultimate punishment and test of Lord Darren's true honor, like having that thing as a wife.
Quick thinking on Corliss's part, but yeah, always the matchmaker, this guy trying to marry off his house.
Yeah,
And
but definitely giving the least of his prizes to Darren there.
the other thing that's what struck me as interesting is that Ormond gets wind that Darren and Gawain went to make a treaty like without his approval and to try and make terms of peace. And the betrayal that comes across him, Gawain's a tool, so I did enjoy seeing the realization dawn on him that my own people have cut me off at the knees.
Yeah, and I don't really know like how well you can see individual people you're killing on a dragon, but you get that moment where Ulf is clearly zeroing in on Olmond as his revenge.
Yeah,
And the one Roderick is so thrilled by all of it to die in honor. He's already had his arm cut off, so he's probably ready to go.
he did give it to Ormond up the poop chute. Did he
Uh
not?
he said like that's a what is it? That's a good there fucking.
I didn't notch the exact quote there, but it definitely seemed to have maybe a little, I don't know, gay sex tendency.
I think he said now there's a proper fucking or something like
Okay,
that.
would be.
But yeah, and then Ulf triples down. So at the end, I think we see Ormond burned, right?
Yes.
And we see that Gwain's dead, or no?
I didn't mark that Gawain is
But
definitely
we
dead.
definitely do not see where Darren is, I feel
Right. That's
like.
the big mystery to me.
Okay. At one point, we see three dragons in flight, and I didn't know what that was.
One of them looks like Caraxes. One of
Uh,
them has to be Ulf, but that's where I was thinking, oh, Aegon and Aemon showed up. Now this is getting really good. But I think maybe it's just Hugh's dragon flying riderless around.
yeah, that could be it. But like, why would Ulf be coming with them, or what's going on with Ulf?
At one point, one of the dragons seems to blow fire at Ulf's dragon.
We
I
do
don't
get
know if
the
it was in that part or somewhere else.
we do get the message from Corliss to Damon as they get him out of there. Damon was fighting that other big Kingsguard of Ormond or whatever he
Yeah, this
was.
guy who's now a huge character that I still don't know his name.
I think he died probably, right? Question mark.
I no, I think he did survive.
Okay. Regardless, where was I going with that? Oh, when Damon gets rocked, he wakes up in a rubble. And I do think we got that scene in his dream sequence last season, right? Part of it, not all of it, but there, I thought in one of his dream sequences from last season was him waking up in that state of dishevelry. You may have tuned that out because you were such a fan of his
I
dream
probably
sequences,
did.
but I'm like 75% sure, like the pale horse, that this was something else that had been like dreamed before. His wife, they don't really actually show her dead, but I hope she is. Like,
His reaction makes it look like she died because he calls out to the heavens like all distraught.
yeah, you definitely do get a end of Two Towers scene there.
Stella!
Yeah, for sure. So you had called out earlier in the season that it looked like the room tower that Helaena was in was the same window that Tommen jumped out of. And is that ultimately the window she jumps out of?
Yeah, I felt vindicated in seeing this because you see the sept fully intact, whereas it was smoldering in ruins when Tommen did it.
Okay, I got you
So
there.
I didn't know that it was going to that point, but it did feel like I got some imaginary points there.
And we see the butterflies with Alicent as Lena goes
This is
away.
one of Jessica Z's favorite new shows. It's called Death on the Spectrum.
Good call out there. Death is blind. So Al actor describes the scene as having a pang of intuition, but not really knowing that Helene is dead for sure, but just that something feels off. The showrunners talk about how dreamers are even rarer than dragons, and she's the last of the dreamers, certainly until we get to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Um, but he calls him one of the last dragons there. One point they made about Ulf, they said this whole episode turned on one man's shame and that had shamed him, and then Ormond shamed him. I'm not really sure I like that being the full explanation. I think the failure of Rhaenyra to really reward or give people a carrot to do what she wants is, to me, a theme that I like more than just Ulf killing everybody out of pure shame. Do you have any thoughts on that concept of the episode turning on shame?
I think I don't know about the episode, but I do think the battle, when you have somebody with a power like the dragon that's a moody bitch like Ulf, that yeah, he was butthurt. Obviously, Ormond was butthurt, but I think that is what moved the needle, his insecurities and need for revenge, and he's drunk on alcohol and power.
Rhaenyra ultimately gets finally the last pale horse crosses the finish line as she looks at the tapestry from Helaena, and Helaena has herself jumping out the window while Tumbleton burns of sorts, or the dragon battle burns. And she has a bloody Rhaenyra on the throne, basically. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, at first it's like all these Targaryens are blonde, but Rhaenyra's March to the Sept look definitely very masculine, I guess you'd say. She's in her own emo phase, and the needlework that Helena did seemed to match her new outfit.
So as we end the season, the way the showrunners described it was that there's no real winners, that in the end game the dragons are going to matter most. Do you want to rate and kind of give your final thoughts on the season and then lead us into next season?
Overall, I still did enjoy it. I'm glad we're covering it. I'm glad I watched it. I love this universe, even though, as it stands right now, this is probably pulling into third place of the three shows. Game of Thrones is one of my favorite shows ever, and I enjoyed Night of the Seven Kingdoms. This can be hard at times, so I probably would give this season a 7.5, like you talked about off the top. It started good, it ended good, but the endless meandering and wandering did lose me for some points. I want stakes, and I think this does set up for a very powerful season four. In last season's, I want to see casualties. I wanted to see it in Stranger Things, didn't get it. Wanted to see it in The Boys, was kind of teased, and then finally in the end they delivered. And so that's what I'm going to want to see out of House of the Dragon season four. What about you?
Yeah, I've actually got it at exactly a 7.52. My only pushback on the show, and I don't disagree that it's probably running third. I think the highest points of this show run not neck and neck, but they're in the ballpark. They're in the same parking lot as the other shows. There's just too many downs compared to the others.
Yeah,
But
and
it's,
maybe by nature, like this show is a tragedy. And
yeah.
we don't always want to live in depression and anxiety and all those things, but like we want some heroes. We want some good stuff. And there isn't really a hero in the show.
Yeah, this takes George's nihilism or sadism to a high point, except with none of the titulation in between. It's just
None of the boob.
yeah, all cooter, no boob from George here. So yeah, I've got it as a 7.5, but I still think the highs of the show are still very good. Yeah, I'm looking to see next season wrapped up. I don't imagine I'm going to be thrilled by the outcome any which way it goes. And I think that was part of the downside of this season is you could see things going sideways. It's as they said, the end of the season, there's no winners, and that's what I always sign up for. I always watch a game to see no winners.
Let
And
it end in a tie
yeah,
every
kiss,
game.
sisters kissing, kiss, kiss. So yeah, I'm a little concerned that the ending is going to be fulfilling for anyone, but certainly the show at its high points is still entertaining for now. Certainly they develop some of the fringe characters better. As much as I think Gwaine is a bit of a Nancy. His character and acting have been good, and he's been a plus this season. And Darren has been a plus. And Ormond, while a villain, was a plus this season. And I think certainly Rhaena didn't hasn't exactly worked out well as a character. I think Adam maybe is a low point. I started to come along on Alan towards the end of this season. There seemed to be more character development and interest there. Yeah, curious where the last season goes. Definitely some highs and lows here, but overall, I still want to see the last season for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, buddy.
Cool. That will do it for House of the Dragons. I will be back later in the week with more Dark Side of the Ring. And next week, we will be back with Lanterns and we will see how that show goes and where it takes us. Did you see the Lanterns trailer beforehand, or did you skip past it because you were a little behind?
I accidentally skipped past it. So
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
even less about this than I thought I did.
Yeah, I think the most recent trailer, which is the trailer that came out around Comic-Con, so if you saw it then, you saw it now, but I'm higher on this than the first trailer, so we will venture blindly into next week's horizon and see how it goes.
Tom was asking me about it when I got to meet him.
Yeah, I thought I'll mention it to him. I just don't know with him being on East Coast time if he'll want to stay up and record that late, but I'm definitely open to the possibility of him recording. He keeps weird hours, so he may want to do it. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I was a little hesitant because I think the trailer hints at some aliens, but it also hints at manhunters, which I think Martian Manhunter is the last of the Manhunters. So I don't think we're getting him specifically, but maybe the last of his brethren. So that's kind of interesting. I just don't want the butterfly baddies of the Peacemaker universe. Certainly, those are like my least
Yeah.
favorite baddies, the butterfly kind. But
You think we could get Mitzelflick? That would be cool.
yeah, I don't know. I definitely couldn't have pronounced that. Who is that the one that Godfried plays in the cartoon?
So the cartoon that you know isn't the same as the cartoon that I know, but basically he's a green alien that causes mischief, but that's the Super Friends version of him.
Yeah, I picture him like what Batmite is to Batman, maybe. Is that kind of his vibe?
I'm not familiar with Batmite, but
Okay.
I think if reimagined well, it could be interesting.
Yeah, I think I thought I'd have to go back and check, but I thought on the animated series that it was maybe, yeah, it was Gilbert Gottfried. So, and he wasn't green, but he was all in the animated series. That's kind of him.
That's funny.
My knowledge of Superman animated versus Batman animated definitely not as good, but definitely just Gottfried in anything is funny to me.